Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Didsbury Art Studio and I'm Sally. And in today's video we're going to be doing some smocking. This time I'm going to make up the design. This is the first time I've done it. All I'm going to do is just tweak a design that I've done before, and I'm going to use some stunning fabric, so let's see how this comes out. Alright then, let's get straight into the video. Today I'm going to be using this 1.5 inch grid, and got my usual equipment, my upholstery thread, I'm using a friction pen there, and my scissors. I've got some needles, and I've got this fabric which I got a little while ago and I'd really like to use it. Some beautiful satin fabric. I've got quite a lot of it, but actually what I've done is I've cut off, just use pinking shears around the edges. I find that really helps with satin when things can fray quite a bit. So what I've done is the usual. I use the light box, but just to save time, I obviously had that with the light box underneath it, and then I've just used my pen and I've transferred 4 of the dots onto the wrong side of the fabric. So I've got the shiny side, the right side on the other side, and then of course we put our grid and design on the back of our Canadian smocking. So next what we're going to do is, what I decided to do was I hadn't come up with an idea of just doing my own design, so that's what I'm going to try and do today. I'm going to keep it simple and sort of think about using a design that I've done before but alter it, and just to see how it might come out. And because it's on a 1.5 inch grid, hopefully that will come out a little bit differently to what I usually use, which is a 1 inch grid. So let's try this out. Okie dokie then. So quite simply, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do one diagonal from a line from one side to the other dot, and I'm going to do it directly underneath so there's no gaps. Just out of interest, just as an idea. I don't know what it'll do. I presume because the design's quite close together, it's going to be quite ruched up together, miniature. I'd say it's going to shrink quite a bit. That's guessing anyway. So I don't want to go straight across. I'm going to leave this as a gap, and I'm going to try doing again across here. So leave me with this and I'll get all the rest done. So I've already pre-ironed this fabric to remove the creases. Lots of repetition. Lots. So I find that when I'm adding the lines, I'm not that careful. It's more of a case of this is a temporary line. It's going to be removed by the steam of an iron because I'm using this pen here, and this is only temporary marker. So really looking forward to seeing how this will come out, particularly as I'd say fabric that is one of my favourites. I do really gravitate to the satin fabrics. So obviously with the smocking you need to make sure that your stitches are really consistent. So whereas I'm not being so consistent with these lines, they're a little bit rough, to be fair, just to give me a guideline really. You do have to be extremely careful with your stitch consistency so that the pattern formation comes out correctly. on the other side. So you've got to be uber careful with your stitches, put it that way. It needs to create tension for threads when you're sewing. So all held together by the stitch tension. So sometimes I think I show you the whole process, and then other times, depending on what sort of time that I have, I jump and fast forward bits. So you can see I've already put the grid on, which is pretty time consuming, or can be, and I could have saved time by just drawing out these lines to begin with, but I wanted you to see how I'm just thinking about making up a design, just to see whether the design can work rather than using one of the ones that we've already got. Alright, so I'm going to leave that line of dots left undone, doesn't fit on. All I need now is my thread and needle. So if you're not familiar or you haven't done that much hand stitching before, some of the basics are you can have like needle threaders, which I've got a little ton of in drawers over here for when I'm teaching, if anybody needs any help with threading the needles. But generally I tend to use needles that have got quite a large eye, and also because the upholstery thread is quite thick and structured, it's quite easy to thread through. And then I've just popped a knot at the other end, opposite end to my needle, and then I'm going to work from the top and work down. Alright then, so take a small stitch, leaving my knot here, and quite simply I'm just going to do one large stitch, draw the fabric in, gather it in, pop one little stitch through the top, take my needle through the loop, and I always just add another little knot just for it to be secure. So that's that. Okay then, so I'm going to head down to the next diagonal. So I'm not going to cut the thread off, and because I'm transferring from one diagonal to another, I want this thread to remain slack, so I don't want to draw it in. I'm just going to pop another stitch to stabilize that, and then we're going to head over to the end of this line here and give that a little pull in, as we usually do. So add my stitch, take my needle through the loop, pull, knot, process, that's what it is. Head down to the next diagonal. So I'm just using my finger at the back of the fabric to flatten the fabric so I can really get into that first dot there, the start of this diagonal. So once again, small amount of thread, leaving it slack, taking my needle through just to pull that so that that doesn't draw in, and then I'm going to add another little stitch at the bottom of that diagonal, and then I'm going to use my finger and my thumb just to force that fabric down right there, gather the fabric in and pop a stitch in. So hopefully you are getting the idea. Okay, so we'll do the big reveal in a bit. After we've done one column, we'll just have a look at what it's looking like. I'm taking a guess here, it is a bit of a risk. I've not tried it before, but I thought since it's the basis of quite a few of the, like I'm thinking in my head of the wave smocking, it's not that dissimilar. So let's see how it comes out, just almost tweaking a design just to see if it alters the pattern formation that comes out. Alright then, so you're going to leave me with this to get on with doing right down to the bottom, and then we will take a look at the other side and see what's happening. Okay then, that is the first column done. There we go. I'm actually really digging the way that the tension of the thread in parts of this is creating these little delicate, I guess, imprints in the fabric. Look at that. Love that. Very subtle. Anyway, here we go. Let's have a look at the other side. Let's see if it's doing anything. Oh, cute. Oh, what do you think? Oh, that is so cute. Right. Okay, we've got tons more to do, but I'm really glad that's working. It is like a little miniature, little ripple, little wave, isn't it? Very delicate. Very delicate indeed. How cute. You could imagine that on a top, couldn't you? Like the front of a top. Okay then. Right, I am going to be getting some more done. Okay, so we've got 2 columns done. I'm just going to show you. That's the back, obviously. I'm loving this one. Look at that. Look at that. So pretty. Yum. Okay, let's get more done.
Passionate about people and choices and the concept of choices. Like the choice isn't a crap choice and a crap choice.
Here we go. There we go. Looking good. I quite like it actually when the design sort of changes just a little bit. You see, because they're not all the same there, are they? But it adds to the effect. So plenty more to do. So I've actually got 1 stitch left to do. I've been doing a couple of columns each day. To be honest, it's not been taking too long, so happy with that. But it is such a beautiful design. I know I say this so often, but I am going to have to do this design again on another piece of fabric in another scale because the design is just gorgeous. So I will share this with you. So that's the back of it and that's the front. Just a really subtle, soft, ripply design. How nice is that? Let's just get a little close up for you. So that is the back, and although I had a sort of rectangular piece of fabric and I've done each of the columns, it's kind of gone into this diamond shape. And then if we turn it over, I just love it. There we go. So we haven't got much light here today, but I'll try to get a decent shot for the thumbnail. But how pretty is that? Really, really gorgeous. Couldn't be happier. So I just quickly popped that sample on the front of this mannequin just to see what that looks like. I know it's got that piece on from before, but yeah, I like it. Just looking at the back as well, the back of the design. So I hope you've enjoyed this video today, and if you did, please do me a massive favour, and I am providing this content for free, although I really enjoy doing it. It helped me out. If you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, it's just that button down there, just give it a click. It doesn't cost you anything, and if you could give the video a like if you've enjoyed it, and sharing the channel would super help me out. That is interested in the arts and textiles, that would be really helpful, and I'll see you in the very next video. Take care, see you shortly.